Okay, good evening and welcome to our orientation. This is actually a very special orientation because it's the first one we've done with live students since we've revised the program. The first 16 years of this program, we had one program plan that carried us for quite a long time. And then partially because of the pandemic and needs changing, we decided to sort of recalibrate the program, and it's time to do a revised orientation. The good news for you is that our old orientation, or I should say our original orientation, had a packet of materials that had 22 pages in it, and the orientation was 90 minutes. We've managed to streamline it. We've sort of gotten it down to 11 pages, and I don't know exactly how long this orientation is going to be, but I'm predicting somewhere around 40 minutes. So and of course, if there are any unanswered questions, and you'll have opportunity to ask questions, but if there are any unanswered questions, you have only to reach out to me, either through email or telephone. But I will say email is best. I love email. It makes me feel important. And it's likely that I'll get back to you faster because it's often hard to reach teachers by phone because your days are just so not quite your own. So let's start off, and let me just welcome you and tell you how grateful I am that you've chosen this program. It's a special program, I think, partially because, or mainly because, it really is built around the reality of being a working pre-K to 12 teacher. And I will be your advisor throughout the entire time that you're in this program. So any questions you have about academics or classes or structures, you'll come to me. There will be some things I will have to refer you to other people for, things about the technology of the program or things about different nuts and bolts of pieces that are somebody else's area of expertise, but I should probably be your first point of contact for almost everything. So let me start by saying that I'm going to talk about a few general things about being a Tcnj and an RTC student, and then we'll go through all those orientation materials I sent you, and then we'll have Q&A. So the first thing you really need to know is that when you were accepted into this program, you landed with a foot in each of two worlds. You are both a Tcnj student, the College of New Jersey, and an RTC student, Regional Training Center. We tend to refer to everybody as an RTC student because you will have a lot more contact with the RTC staff than you will the Tcnj staff, with the exception of me. But please remember that you are both. And at the district level, technically, I think you're a Tcnj student, because the difference between Tcnj and RTC, or one of the important differences, even though there's a large overlap in the Venn diagram, is Tcnj is a state-run, a state-sponsored, accredited degree program. So all of your credits, all of your degrees, all of your official transcripts will come from Tcnj, and that's really all your district is going to care about. RTC is an educational management company that we're partnered with for this particular master's program. And what is ironic in that is that Tcnj is a school with a little bit of a business-oriented heart, and RTC is a business that beats with the heart of an educator. So it's kind of an interesting cross purposes there. But the reason that it's important that you remember that you're in two different worlds is that because one is a state school and one is a private business, the two sort of circles can't completely line up and be congruent. There has to be some areas of separation. And the way you're going to feel that first and most is that for both Tcnj and RTC, you're going to have a separate username and password. And you want to use the Tcnj username and password for Tcnj things, and the RTC username and password for RTC things. And we know that that's a little clunky and a little idiosyncratic, but idiosyncrasies are a feature of this program, and we like to celebrate them. So the way it's going to work in practice is that most of the things that you will do on the front end will all be related and connected to RTC. You will go onto the RTC website to find your courses. You'll see the schedules. You'll contact RTC when you want to register for a course, when you enroll in a course. That'll be done through RTC. When you pay your tuition, you will do that to RTC as well. So they handle all of the work of getting you up on your feet and into your courses. You'll interact with TCNJ sort of at the end of the process. When the courses are over, although RTC may issue you a grade report, that's not an official grade report that your district will accept. You'll need an official transcript from TCNJ's Office of Records and Registration, and you'll deal with TCNJ for that. You'll also, at the end of the program, when you're close to being done with your classes and you're ready for graduation, you'll deal a lot with TCNJ because you'll need to register for graduation and pay a graduation fee, and we'll talk about that. But you don't do any of your registration or tuition payment to TCNJ. So that's sort of the big sort of practical difference for you. So let me now talk about just a few more things before we get into the nuts and bolts of the orientation. One of the things to remember is that you are getting an MED degree, Master of Education, not an MA, which is a Master of Arts, or an MAT, which is a Master of Arts in Teaching. And although most of us don't always know what is the difference between those three programs, and it may not even be important. Some of them are, one of them is a certification program, which doesn't apply to any of you, you're all certified. They all have slightly different focuses and requirements, but just for official purposes, you are an MED, a Master of Education, and the full title of the degree, which will appear ultimately on your transcripts and on your diploma, is a Master of Education in Educational Leadership, Instruction. And there's a story behind that, which I'm going to tell you. Because sometimes, not often, and not so much anymore, but sometimes districts, when they see the words educational leadership, they get a bit wary of reimbursing you because they think you're trying to be a school principal and that they're paying you to leave the district, and that's not the case. When we started this program back in 2005, we wanted to call it the MED in Instruction, because that's what it is. And there wasn't a pre-existing degree by that name at the level of state ed. And we were going to petition to start that title, but it turned out it was a 12-step process that we were told could take as much as 2 years. So we found out that we could take an existing program, like our MED in Educational Leadership, and calve off of that by putting a colon and then the word instruction, and that would be perfectly legal, and we could start in 2 weeks. So that's what we do. So we're an MED instruction that's housed within the larger umbrella of educational leadership. And again, that's probably not information that's enormously important, but if it ever should come up at your district level, that's the key that you want to remember, is that this is really focused on K-12 teachers, pre-K to 12 teachers who love what they do and want to do it better in ways that only you can define for yourself. So that's what the program is really about. The other thing that you'll want to remember, in case it ever comes up in your district, is that our program is accredited. In fact, it's doubly accredited. We are regionally accredited by the Middle States Commission on Higher Education, which is something that's often of strong interest to school administrators. And we're also nationally accredited by CAPE, which is the Council on the Accreditation of Education Programs. So again, if that should ever come up, if you're walking down the hall and somebody says, hey, is that program accredited? You can confidently say yes. And I think that's really all the nuts and bolts stuff to start with before we go into the materials that I've sent you. I also want to offer a tiny apology. If everything I say in the next 30 minutes sounds a little bit rehearsed, It kind of is. I've done these orientations at least 80 or 90 times. So sometimes I do kind of lapse into automatic. I promise you, if you're ever a student in one of my classes, I'm a bit more animated and I modulate my voice a little more. So try and hang in there and don't look completely bored if in fact, I begin to sound a bit monotonous. So thank you for that in advance. So let's just turn to all those materials I sent you. And to be honest, you're all in a master's program, which means you all know how to read at a high level. And you could probably go through all these materials without my mentorship. But I thought it would be a good way to get to know you. This program is still small enough for me to know every student in it. And I may or may not remember how to spell your name, but I will probably remember your email address. And also, especially now, since so many courses are virtual, it's possible you'll get to the end of this program and never set foot on TCNJ campus. So I want you to feel some connection to the TCNJ culture, even if only through me. Okay, so I'm going to do some screen sharing. And sometimes when I go back and forth between screen sharing, it's possible that you may lose sound, not from me, but I may not be able to hear you. So if that happens, we can use the chat feature to communicate. Okay, so first up is, let's do screen share. We'll do this. There. You should all see this sort of orange and white page that you've received. Is this showing up? Can somebody give me a thumbs up? Great, okay. So we're going to go through this sort of row by row, but again, I'm not going to belabor it, but I just want to make sure that you're familiar with all of the resources that you have. The first row is about account lookup, and I sent you all an individualized account lookup sheet, which was blue and yellow. Those are the sort of TCNJ colors, actually blue and gold, but I'm going to see if I can switch. Can you now see an account lookup sheet? Okay, so you'll see I've made this out for a fictitious student that I wish was in this program, but it's not likely that she will be, but what the heck. So what you'll need here is a lot of this material is replicated in that 11-page document I sent you, and especially that first 2 pages with all those orange and white colored bars. Your name obviously will be on there, and your pause ID number is a 6-digit number that will never change. You'll kind of want to make sure you have that pause ID number somewhere in your easy to find universe, because it'll be the key. If you ever have to contact TCNJ about things like graduation or technology troubles, they're going to want to know your pause ID number. So that's important to know. Okay, so that's really all that I have to say about that. You will, as it says here, I've already mentioned to you that you have a TCNJ username and password. Your username will also never change. It's some version of your last name and maybe your first initial and a number, and that will never change. But your password, your TCNJ password, will have to change every 180 days or twice a year. And you'll get an email from them about a month before. It comes from something called TIMS, and I don't know what TIMS stands for. Maybe it's TCNJ Information Management System. That's as good a guess as any. But when you get that, it's not a fraud, and it'll tell you you have 30 days to change your password. If you ever get locked out, if you forget about it, and the 180 days goes by and you haven't changed your password, you'll be locked out, but don't panic. We're gonna, there are ways to get into the system. All right, so I'm going to now stop share. Well, let me just look ahead for a second. Okay, TCNJ email. TCNJ will officially communicate with you using your TCNJ email. And for many of you, you may not even know that you have a TCNJ email. You may not want a TCNJ email. And chances are you won't need it a lot. But every once in a while, they will send you something. like your graduation status or any course deficiencies that you have, or, usually problem-related things. So what you should do is you should do one of two things. You should go into your Tcnj email using your username and password and either check it once in a while, like every 2 weeks, or up to you. Could be every week, every 2 weeks, whatever schedule works for you. The other thing you can do is you can forward it to your personal email, your Gmail account or your Hotmail account or whatever. Now, the only thing you need to know, it's going to forward everything. You probably already have about 40 emails, 38 of which are unnecessary, 38 of which will be things like, guess what's for lunch today in the diner, or steam shut down in building 5. But buried within that, there may be some important information about your status as a student. So you'll want to somehow check in with that. I will use your personal email, whichever email you have told us is your personal email, I'll use, because when I send you an email, I'll want you to read it quickly and not 2 weeks later. If you change emails, if you change from Gmail to some other mail, or if you use your school's email, please remember to let me know so that we can make a change. And I'm not sending emails to an email that you don't check anymore. Okay, so I'm going to stop sharing this. Okay, and now I'm going to switch to something different. Whoops, which is here. Okay, give me a second, and I will move to share. Okay, you should now be looking at the Tcnj homepage. Is that what you're seeing? Great, okay. So a few things to know about this. When you go onto the Tcnj homepage, this is what you're going to see. The key for you, and I don't know why they do this. Give me 1 second, I have to move some icons around here. Okay, the key is over here where it says Tcnj Today. If you click on this whole menu here opens up. For some reason, you can't access this menu unless you click Tcnj Today. And what's odd is that's not intuitive. Like if you didn't know to do that, I don't know how you'd ever know to do that. So over here are a few things. The ones that you're going to need and that we're going to talk about is Google Apps. This is how you'll access your email. And it's got the G there to remind you that it's Gmail linked. And Pause, you'll need Pause. Pause will be important. Most of these you won't need. Most of these are for other kinds of on-campus students. But then there's also OWL. You'll need OWL as well. And you can scroll to it using this bar here. Okay. So that's a quick look at the Tcnj homepage. And when you go into Pause, which, whoops, is back here. Where is it? Hold on, let me move this down a little bit. There we go. So, oh, yes, okay. I'm going back a half step now, sorry. If you look at that first bar across Account Lookup, there's a link there to the Account Manager page, which is this. This is where you'll come if you need to change or manage your password or check your password or look up your account. And again, you can use the Account Manager feature in your orientation materials to access this. Or you can just type Account Manager into the search bar. And this is the page that will help you forward your Tcnj Gmail messages to any other account. So now we're going to go to Pause. When you click on Pause, you're going to get a page that looks like this. It's very simple. You know how to use a username and password. I'm not going to put mine in because it will take you to a very different page than you'll see, because I'm staff and faculty. But this is the window through which you will do a lot of things, including request a transcript. Okay, so the next thing is Pause Help. And again, if you follow along in this, you'll see that all of these links are in there. The Pause Help will take you to a Pause Help page. And again, if you forget or if you lose these links, you can always go onto the Tcnj homepage and type these things into the search bar. So this will help you if you forget your pause ID, or if there are just any other problems with pause. A good number to remember, however, is the IT help desk. This is a great number because they will help you with all sorts of technology related things that I can't. Not because I don't know how to, but I don't even have access to all of the things that they do. Okay, so moving along, this is what the help desk homepage will look like. If you need help, there's a request help icon. There's an FAQ icon. There's a Tcnj account manager. There's connecting to the wireless, which you can only do actually when you're on campus, and all sorts of other services. So I'm just showing this so that you'll be familiar with it when you see it. Here are the hours when you can contact the help desk. And if all else fails and you completely forget how to do all of this, you can always email me. That's one of the services I will be providing for you. Okay, so that brings us now to, we're almost done with this first page. We're moving along at a rapid clip here. Health requirements. This is the thing that gives a lot of new students a bit of pause, no pun intended. Tcnj has two important health requirements for graduate students. The first is something that has always been in place and is required by the state. Tcnj needs a record of your immunizations, measles, mumps, rubella, whatever it is. Now, if you work in a New Jersey public school, chances are you have already had to give this to your public school in order to be hired. So hopefully you still have that information. If you don't, you'll have to do one of two things. You'll either have to go to your pediatrician and get your records. And for many of us as adults, we don't even remember who our pediatrician is, or sadly, they may no longer be practicing, let's say. So if that's the case, then you'll have to go to your primary care physician and get one of those blood tests that shows your antibodies. And you will have to submit that to Tcnj. You do not send it to me. You send that to the student health office. And again, that's linkable to this. The other thing that you have to do, and this is only 2 years old, and you probably had to do this for your school, is you do have to show proof of COVID vaccination if you have it. Most of you are probably vaccinated, and so it's just a matter of uploading your vaccination card, a screenshot of your vaccination card. You can do it with your phone. Those of you that are not vaccinated will have to apply for a waiver, and it's not very difficult to get, but you do have to fill out a form that asks if it's a medical waiver or religious waiver or whatever the reason is. It's not impossible. They're not going to give you a terribly hard time about it. They prefer you to be vaccinated, even if you only take online courses. This is now state policy. So I can't help you fight it, but it's not that difficult a requirement to meet. But when we first started doing vaccinations, it was very problematic because not everybody could get the vaccination, and that seems to be over. This is where you'll use the link that I called OWL, which stands for the Online Wellness Link. And so there's that. Before I go further, I'm going to stop sharing just for a second, just to pause and ask you if you have any questions so far. How does everything feel relatively clear? If not completely fascinating, at least manageable. That's the goal we're looking for here. Okay, and so nobody has any questions at this moment? All right.
Can I just ask about the OWL?
Yes.
Does that have to be completed before you register for a course?
That's an excellent question. The answer is yes, no, sort of.
Okay.
Once you're accepted, I believe you have either 30 days or 45 days to comply. And I forget which. I know I should know that. It used to be 45, and I think it's 30 days now. If you don't do that, it is very possible that there will be a hold placed on your ability to register. And we don't want that. So now, if something happens and you really can't get this done within the 30 days, contact Student Health Services and arrange with them for an extension. They can give you, a week or two extension, whatever seems reasonable. You can't say I need a 6-month extension because that's just not very reasonable. But if you need a few weeks, they're really nice people. They're incredibly overworked right now, as you can imagine, with just keeping track of, COVID status for 4,500 students. But they're really nice people and they're not unreasonable. So my suggestion is to do it as soon as you can. But if you find that you're beyond the point and you get locked out of registration, then that's what you'll have to do. You can contact RTC for some information, and they can maybe help you connect with the student health office, but I don't think you'll need that. I don't think you'll need that. Any other questions? Okay, then I'm going to, I'm done with that and open a new window, which is this. Great, okay. All right, so let me start sharing again. Now, when you go on to Tcnj Student Health Services office, are you all seeing this again? This is what it looks like. And again, there are ways to reach them. I'm sure somewhere in here there is a frequently asked questions and a way to contact them. If you go to, if you go to the main homepage, there's a directory. I mean, it's easy to access anybody on campus. So good. All right. So now I want to go to, where are we? Oh, yes, on the next page, the second page, library resources. For many years, RTC students did not have access to TCNJ's library for a very simple reason. One of the things you do not do is you do not pay a semester student activities fee, which frankly is quite high. If you were an undergraduate here, you know what I mean. And when you pay your student activities fee, you get a student ID card, a little plastic ID card with a barcode on it. And you needed that barcode to access TCNJ library services. But that has changed. You don't pay student activity fees. You don't get one of those little plastic ID cards, but you no longer need a barcode to access TCNJ's library services. All you need is your username and password, which you all have. And the services are really good if you need any academic resources that you can't find otherwise. And in particular, I want to draw your attention. Again, the link is here on this page. Our education librarian is a wonderful woman who worked as a district librarian for many years. Her name is Genevieve Innes. Everybody calls her Jenny. And she put together, just for RTC students, a LibGuide, a library guide on getting started and how to access library services, what you have online access to, how you can get ebooks, how you can research articles from a database, how you can browse journal. She's really a lovely person who's done an exceptionally good job of putting together, just for RTC students, this brief LibGuide, including how can I get more help? How can I contact her? So if for any of your classes, if you're doing a research project, or even not for classes, you just want to know more about, I don't know, differentiated instruction and creative play, this LibGuide will help you. Okay, next up is something I really don't understand. I have nothing to say about. I just know that it exists. As a TCNJ student, there is a page dedicated to getting free software. So if you're really a software, collector, you can find all sorts of software links and things to download here. I know so little about this page, it's embarrassing. So I wouldn't be of much help to you here. The next thing that comes up is something that is really important to you, which is transcript services. So when you finish an RTC class, you're going to want an official TCNJ transcript for your district because that's what they'll want so that they can reimburse you. The good news is that transcripts are free for the rest of your life. TCNJ does not charge students for transcripts, which I think is kind of amazing. So this is where you'll want to go. You'll want to do that through records and registration, and you will need your username and password. Now, here's the tricky thing. Remember before I said that TCNJ and RTC, although there's a strong overlap, there are places where they don't quite connect. So this is an important one. So let me explain what I mean. When you take an RTC course, you're going to take one of three formats. Either you will take a face-to-face course, which we are integrating into our program starting with the summer, or you'll take a virtual course, which is our sort of version of a hybrid, which involves several hours, say, in the morning of Zoom-based instruction, and then the afternoon is independent study that is asynchronous, but supported by instructors and students. Or you'll take the third version, which is online, which is a fully online asynchronous course. And even though you don't meet in a Zoom room with instructors and other students, there are several deadlines a week for things being due. So regardless of whatever format you take your class, when the class is over, on the day, the official last day of class, you will have something that you'll have to send to your instructor that we call an LEP. It's a learning extension project. It's basically a final project. Every RTC course has one. Some of them are substantial, some of them are shorter, but every RTC course has a learning extension project, an LEP. You will have up to 2 weeks to complete that LEP. It may take you less. Maybe you'll finish it in 3 days, maybe you'll finish it in a week, and you can turn it in as soon as you finished it. But you may not turn it in. The system won't even accept it. You may not turn it in before the class is over. Like, you may be a real well-organized person, and maybe you finish your LEP before the last class ends, but you cannot submit it until the next day at like 12:01 a.m. But the instructor will have 2 weeks to grade all of those LEPs. Sometimes they do it faster, but they have full 2 weeks. And then they have 1 week to submit grades. So we're now talking 3 weeks after the last day of class. And what will happen is they will send those grades over to RTC, and then RTC will send your grade to TCNJ. So what's interesting is that when you register for an RTC course through RTC, TCNJ doesn't even know that you're taking that course yet. They won't know you're taking that course until the course is over, your LEP has been graded, your grade has been sent to RTC, and then forwarded to TCNJ. At the maximum, although it's unlikely, but at the maximum, that could take up to 5 weeks. It doesn't usually happen that way. It usually happens in less time. It usually happens in about 3 weeks. But that you need to remember that so that you don't start looking for your transcript like 10 minutes after you hand in your LEP. You're going to have to give it a tiny bit of time. But that's sort of the only sort of obstacle, if you will, that you'll have to remember about transcripts. And I think you can, if you want an overnight transcript, I think you can pay for that. And I'm not sure how much it is. Oh, I think it's $3.50, which is not, a burdensome charge. But this is where you'll want to go for your transcripts. Okay, the next thing up is, nope, that's not it. The next thing up is the Student Code of Conduct, which I didn't download for this presentation. It includes probably the most important piece of it, and you can access it through these links, is the academic integrity policy, which basically says don't plagiarize. If you do plagiarize and you get caught, you'll face disciplinary action, and there's no need. because the RTC program, the assignments are so rooted in your experience, in your classroom, that it's really almost impossible to sort of, download somebody else's work and submit it as your own. The other thing that you shouldn't do, because RTC does have a way to check on this, is you can't submit a paper for one class to another RTC class. We really want original work. So just remember that. Okay, now moving on, I want to talk about the program plan. There are two places that you can access the program plan, and they look a little bit different. The first is on the RTC homepage. Again, if you go to this and you click on Program Outline, it'll bring you to the RTC page that looks like this. And if you scroll down, you'll see in a sort of outline fashion what the program looks like. It has at the top the required instructional core of 5 classes, the concentration option of 3 courses, and the electives, 2 electives, plus the required culminating experience. So we call that the 532 plan. So all of your instructional core courses which are required are listed here. This probably should not be a surprise to you. The one thing I want to point out to you is that this one in the middle, the EDUC 510 class, is open to all students, but it is strongly recommended that students in the MED program enroll in this as one of the first 3 courses. We want you to take this early because it sets up a reflective thinking model for the other courses. And then you have access to one of 5 concentration option areas, either teaching strategies, the diverse classroom, classroom climate and management, classroom well-being and physical activity, and collaboration and classroom inquiry. Each of these has 5 choices within it. And in some cases, like kinesthetic classroom or motivation, those courses appear in more than one of these options. You're going to choose which one you want, and you're going to take 3 of the 5 courses. Now you can take all 5, we'll get to that in a minute, but you must take at least 3 in one of these options. You do not have to tell me which option you're taking. It's not like you declare a major in undergraduate. We know which one you're taking by looking at your transcript. So we've got that covered. But then the third thing you're going to do is you're also going to take 2 electives, which means you can take any 2 other courses. So let's just say, for example, you decide you want to be in the classroom climate and management option, which you can see here. Okay, you will choose 3 of these courses to take. For ease, I'm just going to say the top 3, 544, 565, and 528. That satisfies your classroom climate and management option requirement. Then you have to take 2 more classes from anywhere on this page, anywhere in this lineup, any course that is in the MED program. RTC has a few courses that are not in the master's program, so those wouldn't work, but you can take any of these other courses, 2 of them. And if you wanted, if you really, really, really liked the classroom climate and management option, and you wanted your 2 electives to be the other 2 courses here, you could do that. So we've given you a lot of freedom about how to build your program. And of course, if you get confused or you forget how to do this, again, just contact me. That's part of my job. The other thing to know is at the bottom of that page, there are 2 things that you'll eventually connect with. The one on the very bottom won't come into play until you're very close to graduation. We have a course called EDUC 700, which is a culminating experience. All students in any master's program at Tcnj must have a culminating experience. In some of our master's programs, that culminating experience is a comprehensive exam, which we don't use as an assessment in this program. The comprehensive exam is usually a very complicated, very long, timed written test. We spend a lot of time looking at alternative assessments, so we don't feel that it's a good idea to have at the end of this program a timed written test. What you will have is a presentation that you'll do And you'll start getting invitations to these as they come up in the summer and other semesters. It's about a 10 to 12-minute presentation, usually done with a PowerPoint, where you or Google Slides or whatever, or Prezi, or any format you like, that asks you to look back reflectively and critically over the courses that you've taken in this program and do a presentation on which ones made the strongest positive impact on your teaching and your students' learning. So that's going to be your culminating experience. And you'll see that there are places to click here that will give you information and a video. Going back to the electives, one of the things we also do now is for your 2 electives, although we prefer you to take 2 RTC courses, if you have a course that you've taken from another institution that can substitute for an existing RTC course, then we can transfer in up to 6 credits. So for instance, if we go back up to here, and we have a course here called the Kinesthetic Classroom. But in your, it has to be a graduate level course. It can't be an undergraduate course. But if you took a course, say at Rowan or Kane or anywhere else that was, say, classroom movement or anything similar, we could transfer in up to 6 credits. And this link here will give you all the information about that. Okay, I'm going to stop sharing for just a moment because I want to show you one other thing before I finish, which is going back to this. Okay, so let me share one more screen. There. So in the 11-page document I sent you, if you go past this, you'll see this is the 1-page version of the program plan that we just looked at on the RTC website. The RTC website has it in outline form. We chose to do it for this orientation as just a 1-page graphic. So you'll see here it explains what those different categories are. The required instructional core is 5 courses. The option concentration is 3 courses. Electives are 2 courses, and the culminating experience. Here are all your instructional core courses. Here under the green banner are the 5 option concentrations with all of the courses listed. And you'll see, for instance, that the Kinesthetic Classroom appears here and here, and I think here. Yeah, so some of them have a crossover. And then your 2 elective classes, and then your required culminating experience. So this is sort of a handy dandy 1-pager. The rest of this involves something that you won't need yet, but it's good for you to know it's there. And it's pretty long, it's about 5 pages, but it's about everything you have to do when you get ready for graduation and commencement. And I'm not going to say a lot about this now because I'm just going to presume you'll be able to read it when you need it. If I told you now everything it says on these pages, it would take a long time. And a year and a half from now or 2 years from now, whenever you're ready to graduate, you probably won't remember what I said today. So that's why we have this for you. The only thing I want you to remember is that graduation, and actually I'm going to stop sharing for this. Okay. Graduation happens at TCNJ 4 times a year. You can be a May graduate, which is the most traditional. You can be an August graduate. You can be a December graduate, or you can be a January graduate. That will be determined by when you finish your coursework. So if you finish your coursework in March, then you're going to be a May graduate. You're not going to be a March graduate. There's no such thing. You'll be a May graduate. If you finish your coursework in July or August, you'll be an August graduate or a summer graduate. If you finish your coursework in October or November or December, you'll be a December graduate, and the same with January. The important thing to know is that graduation is not automatic. You have to apply for it. And the time to apply for it is about 6 months before you're ready to graduate. So for instance, if you know you want to be a May graduate, then you want to apply for graduation in the December or January before May. The same with August. If you're an August graduate, you'll want to apply in January or February. So always be thinking a few months ahead. Applying for graduation is not that difficult. It's done through pause. And I should tell you, by the way, pause. The reason it's called pause is TCNJ's mascot is Roscoe the Lion. And I've never understood that personally because there are no lions in New Jersey. But I guess lions are a symbol of strength or something. But everything at TCNJ reflects the fact that the lion, Roscoe the Lion, is our mascot. So it's called pause, and somewhere else there's tail. So everything relates to being a lion. Personally, I would have chosen the squirrel because they are all over New Jersey. And I just think it would be really funny to have like rival football teams say that they got their butt kicked by the squirrels. I just think that would be funnier. But nobody asked my opinion, so there you go. But yeah, so you have to apply for graduation, and you also have to pay for graduation. Do not forget that step. TCNJ does not send you an invoice. There's no bill that would arrive. So when you apply for graduation, be prepared to pay for it also through student accounts. It is $100, and if you're late though, if you don't do it 6 months or 5 months ahead of time, there'll be a late fee of $35. It's not a crippling late fee, but it's still annoying, and there's no need for you to pay it if you remember. What that $100 will give you is a cap and gown will be included. It will also give you a beautiful hand calligraphied diploma that will arrive long after you've forgotten about it. Like one day some big envelope will arrive at your home and it'll be your diploma. Now the diploma, although it's lovely and decorative, is not what your district needs to see. What your district needs to see is a final transcript that shows your degree on the transcript. So remember that. But the other thing that you need to remember is, again, graduation is 4 times a year, but commencement, which people often refer to as graduation, we use the terms almost as if they're synonyms, but they're not. Commencement is basically a celebration. It's a party. It's an achievement ceremony that honors the fact that you have finished a master's degree. But we only have one commencement a year. It's always in May. So if you're a May graduate, obviously you're going to go to May commencement, assuming you want to. But if you're an August graduate, you're allowed to go to the May commencement, even though, and participate fully. It's not like you're there on a visitor pass. You're an actual, graduating student. TCNJ just assumes if you're that close, you're going to graduate. And so you can participate in the cap and gown robing ceremony. If you're a December or a January graduate, you have to wait until May. Additionally, so there are always 2 ceremonies to be aware of. One is the official TCNJ ceremony, which always happens sort of late in May, either on a Thursday or a Friday. I don't have any control over when that happens. You will have to decide whether you want to take a personal day or not to attend. But then there's also a separate RTC celebration, which now is going to be Zoom, at least for the next few years. But and that's usually scheduled on a weekend. And that's the one I will do a lot to get you to attend, because that one is going to be very personal. That's the one where your family and your loved ones and your friends will really hear about your achievement. So just know that those are both in your future. Okay, I think that might be as much as we need to go through today. So the only other thing on that 11 pages is there is a listing of additional policies, grievance policies, attendance policies, other things that don't really apply as strongly to RTC students as they do other on-campus programs. So I think I'm going to stop, because I think you've probably heard enough for one night, and just see if you have any questions at this point. As a teacher, I was dreadful at wait time. So I'm going to try practicing my wait time by counting to 100 in my head, but probably by tens.
I might have missed this,
Okay.
but how do you go about finding out if RTC will accept some of your other graduate credits for the electives?
That would be me. You will contact me.
Okay,
You will
perfect.
contact me. And there's and you should go look at that electives link, because it's not just like, here's what I want. It has to be, there are criteria. It can't be older than 6 years. It has to be from an accredited, college. It has to be a graduate level program, and it has to be a reasonable substitute for, it has to be an education related course. So, but if you have any questions about that, I'm the contact. I'm the one who chauffeurs through your approval. So
Wonderful, thank you.
I'm your guy. Okay, any other questions?
I have just one quick question. I think I read somewhere, but I forget where, something about $139 fee for, I forget what it was.
You may thank me now. We have for many, many years a management system that would take care of data that we use for accreditation purposes. But RTC students are not responsible for that fee any longer. It was $139. That figure didn't come out of nowhere, and you never have to worry about it as long as you live, I hope.
So that means we can throw away the live text page.
Yes.
Okay, good.
Where did you get that from?
It came in our packet.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. Crumple it up, toss it over your shoulder. There you go.
What if we already paid it?
Did you? I don't know. That's a really good question. I don't know if a refund will be possible, but I promise you I will look into that.
Okay.
And if you don't hear from me within about 2 weeks, I'm going to be out of the office for the next week. But if you don't hear from me in about 2 weeks, please contact me. But I'm a little worried that it may be irrevocable. You're probably the first person that ever paid it without being prodded to do so.
Well, because the thing came in the packet, and I was like, I'll just do it.
No, I get it.
And didn't we need to do it for undergrad? The live text?
Yes, if you were an undergrad here, then you definitely did it and should not have had to do it again.
It was expired.
Oh, all right. I'm going to look into that. I will do my best, but I'm not very optimistic.
Okay, that's okay. Thank you.
Sure. Any other questions?
I just had a question. I know that you said a lot of the programs that we are in that TCNJ Today bar we're not going to use, but do we have to set up our Canvas account to upload assignments or anything? Okay.
Oh, Canvas, were you an undergrad at TCNJ? Yeah, Canvas is used by almost all of the other programs on campus, and it is their learning management system. RTC uses Moodle, I believe. So when you take RTC courses, you're going to be in a completely different ballpark, and Canvas does not apply. Which is too bad. I personally like Canvas, but you can't hold all these things in your head. So yeah, Canvas is not something RTC students need to worry about. Okay, any other questions? All right, then. I thought I'd do this in 45 minutes, but it was an hour, so I hope it wasn't too strenuous for you. But I'm very happy to meet you. And again, any questions that come up, I'm just an email away. So have a wonderful night and have a great career as an RTC student.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Bye.
So long.
Thank you.